It's been a long time. I'm gonna stop. It's been a long time. Yeah, come on. Take this from me. Yeah. Hey, yo, it's my life, my time, my rights, my rhymes, my grind, my struggle, hustle, sweat in my blood too. A predator smells fear, and I smell a lot. My competitors fled scared, cause they smelled I was hot. I want it all. Excess, the sex, much success, stress sucks. I want it all, no less. So come on.
What up? It's your boy T-Bone Reaction Days Wrestling Wednesday. So one thing, this is an interesting video from WrestleMania, and this is about the thing that Vince McMahon loved about his wrestler that he would put up. He had a thing for the longest time, which sometimes would kill WWE in a way, and that is his. I'm not gonna say my when I say myself just sounds crazy or suspect, but I'm going to turn up Big E.
Big meaty
Me,
man
me,
slap
slap
me.
me. But yeah, this is 10 of this man, big sweaty muscle man who flop. Because like I said, big, big does don't always mean better or great. Pause. But 9 times 10, a big muscular guy. It looks good on paper. It looks good. It's a good visual, but 9 times they're not skillful. I mean, they're just big. Nothing more, nothing less as well too. Matter of fact, I should put this up. I'm gonna put it up on the page. Hold on, I'm back. So yeah, I had to put it up though. Shout out to Big E, man. That's Tuesday the funniest thing ever. Hold on, they got actually a picture with this. If I gotta find that picture of this, I will put it up. Oh, he got just got the shirt. There's a shirt with his face on it as well too, saying it. I was gonna find that one. Hold on. But anyway, y'all. So yeah. The most guys like Big E, who like the days of Big me slapping me balls. This they always knows to work or as Booker T that my good friend Bryce be the man from all our wrongs reserved like this quote, no bread, no water, just me. Shout out to him as well too though. As much as that's a pinnacle of wrestling, it sometimes doesn't always work. As in these days, most of the time it doesn't work. So anyway, we're gonna take a look at the 10 of big men that flopped in WWE. So let's get it. Hold up, it's overshadowing. That's my fault. I think so. I'm gonna put the yeah. Here we go. All right, let's get it.
10 of Vince McMahon's big sweaty men that flopped in WWE. Number 10, Lars Sullivan. Unlike
Yeah. Hold that, man. Not just because he sucked, just kind of person he is. Yeah.
most of the names discussed in this video, Lars Sullivan was a name that was favored by both Triple H and Vince McMahon. During Sullivan's run in NXT, the game truly believed that he was something special, but it was never made clear what made Triple H think this, as outside of an impressive look, Sullivan was the definition of generic. They will put
Pretty
Sullivan
much.
in the NXT title
Pretty
picture,
much.
and unfortunately, Sullivan flopped massively in the role, as even the top names of NXT just couldn't carry him to a passable matchup. But it was Vince McMahon who had grand plans for Sullivan on the main
Yup.
roster. Sullivan was going to be boosted straight up to the top. WWE even had plans of Sullivan facing John Cena at WrestleMania 35. As in early 2019, the big sweaty man was supposed to
Boy,
make his
they
debut
didn't do
and
that.
target Cena on WWE television, which would
I'm glad
ignite
they
a feud
didn't.
leading to WrestleMania. However, Lars Sullivan ended up leaving due to an anxiety attack, thus forcing WWE to cancel all the plans. But the anxiety attack was the least of his issues, as Sullivan had been out for most of the year due to injuries suffered. It was also revealed that Lars Sullivan had a past in the adult film industry. There were also allegations of harassment. All of these factors led to Lars Sullivan being released in 2021. Number 9, Heidenreich.
Yup.
One of the formulas that WWE used throughout The Undertaker's 30-year career was debuting a new larger-than-life
Yeah, and I just literally just talked about that in the last video about wrestlers, big wrestlers with no chemistry. Hold on a second. I'm back. So yeah, this is literally right after this documentary got to the chemistry of it, the 20 great wrestler that had no chemistry. And I talked about how like big guys do not. It's like very rare a big guy had chemistry with each other. Another one that proved me right here that is they're barely no chemistry because they always try to make somebody big to coexist with Undertaker in a way.
Life wrestler
Yep,
against the dead man.
uh-huh.
Sometimes this worked, as names such as Kane and even the Great Khali were successful, yet some of the names that The Undertaker was forced
Even though they kind of said surprisingly, Kane and Undertaker was one they mentioned about no chemistry, and as well as the Cloud was mentioned, but I can tell the chemistry was well.
to work with were just awful pro wrestlers. Heidenreich would debut in WWE in 2004, and he was presented as a total psychopath. He was a lover of poetry, and whilst WWE attempted to flesh out the character somewhat, the fans just didn't care. The main issue was that his character was all over the place, and the
Yeah,
aura
it
that he had
was.
completely disintegrated the moment his matches started, as his in-ring work was abysmal. WWE would try a number of things to get him over, and they would even try and
One the rare field Heyman guy.
turning him babyface and aligning him with Road Warrior Animal, but this did little to influence a positive reception. Jim Ross commented on Heidenreich on his podcast, and as always, JR summed up the issues perfectly.
But we thought, well, this son of a bitch is big and impressive and has a distinctive look. If we could get him fundamentally sound and teach him how to do basic rudimentary things in the ring that a big man would do, then we would be ahead of the curve. It's just the fact that some guys have the aptitude for the business and some guys just don't. John had a problem assimilating the nuances of being a pro wrestling performer. But as far as a bad guy or anything, no. Some guys just don't have, if you didn't grow up a fan, you don't, aware of the product as much, or you could disconnected with it at some point in your formative years. Sometimes it's hard to regain that.
See, that's the thing. Other thing, you can't. He say he didn't grow up with a fan. That's the thing That's the thing that hurts a lot. So, and that's why that's part why some of the big guys or big people don't work in wrestling is they got picked up because of the look and the strength they have. But if he wasn't a fan of the product and he ain't grew up in the product, it's not Thompson. It's not gonna work as well too. That's why if you look back at it, I'm not sure, sure how she's still out of all that people that's in that something that she kind of made it a little farther to them. She got eliminated early. Cameron, aka what's her name? What's her name? Yeah, Cameron. I forgot her name was on the she was fucking doctor with Naomi. I forgot her name was. Hold on. Cameron. It was Ariane. No, sorry. Cameron was her name. I'm thinking her real name was Ariane Andrews. I'm thinking Cameron was her name. I'm trying to figure I get her real name mixed with her wrestling name. Her wrestling name was Cameron. Ariane Andrews was her real name. But anyway, that's why, she's in the day looked at as like one of the worst wrestling to pick up, and like say she went through because she was a tag team with Naomi, and once they split up, it was a wrap. So yeah, and then they tried to bring her in AEW as well too, and then somewhat a tag team, but it was a wrap. It was like didn't help. So yeah,
And I think that's the case with John.
WWE put a lot of resources into getting the character over, but sometimes that's not enough to get a wrestler over with the audience. And number 9 of Vince McMahon's big sweaty men just failed. Number 8, Ezekiel Jackson. At WWE,
I can kind of I want to say Ezekiel failed. He just he actually was impressive. It's just I guess the chemistry is just how they booked him. He actually could have did work. I mean, he did great because he did great on Lucha Underground, but it is pretty much how WWE booked him on this one. This was more of a booking situation than his skills.
were insistent on making Ezekiel Jackson a big-time player in 2010. Jackson had a great look, yet the aura and legitimacy disintegrated the moment he wrestled. Jackson would be chosen as the last ever ECW champion, and the idea here was to give him significant credibility before a move to Raw or SmackDown. Jackson would eventually end up joining a stable known as the Core, and this was done so Jackson could break away as a babyface, similarly to Batista in Evolution 5 years prior. Unfortunately, Jackson was no Batista, and even though Jackson would win the Intercontinental title on pay-per-view, it wasn't enough to make fans care. WWE had given Jackson chance after chance to get over, but he needed a lot of work in the ring, and he needed a fleshed out character that fans could resonate with. Number 7, Nathan Jones.
Yup.
Upon debuting on the WWE main roster,
No, nah, he was the one saying when he didn't debut as an opponent on Undertaker, more so a tag team. Just again, just a big guy who's strong and but the rest skills abysmal. But he's good. He's been doing good in movie scene as well too. I will say that.
Nathan Jones was immediately thrown into a storyline with The Undertaker. This was a seal of approval from WWE, and to his credit, the fans were reacting somewhat positively to him. It certainly could be argued that this was no doubt because of the association with the dead man, as opposed to anything unique that Jones was offering. The problem was that Jones just wasn't that great in the ring. Whilst he had the size, he lacked anything else. Going to be set up for a major WrestleMania match, as he was going to team with the dead man to take on Big Show and A-Train at WrestleMania 19.
Ironically, who he was teaming later on for Team Lesnar.
However, due to Jones not being ready for such a high-profile matchup, he was pulled, and WWE opted to have him make a cameo appearance instead. They would try to present him as a heel in late 2003, but this was even worse, as he came across as goofy and cartoonish. Eventually, Jones had enough of the WWE lifestyle, and during a tour of Australia, he decided to stay home and leave WWE behind forever. Number 6, Brackus. During the Attitude Era, the idea of big meaty men being main eventers was slowly fizzling out. But with that being said, Vince McMahon still had a major preference, and one of the names he hoped would get over was Brackus. Brackus had one of the most impressive physiques ever seen on WWE television, as he was a legitimate bodybuilder.
This is around time I was like somebody watching wrestling, and I heard about them, and I heard he was pure trash, yo. I heard he was pure trash from the OGs, yo.
Sadly, this was the Attitude Era, and this wasn't going to be enough. He was met with utter silence from the audience, and his in-ring work was not at the level WWE needed at the time. It was even claimed that Brackus was reckless in the ring, and names such as Dutch Mantel have often claimed that nobody wanted to work with him in any capacity. Number 5, Matt Morgan. Now in 2003, WWE...
I would say that here's another one was because of booking and raising. Day one, this randomly made him with Team Lesnar, and he was just there. He was big, I was just there, and then this damn stunner gimmick did not work at all. And then from the previous video I did from Lano, he's supposed to be who was it? The third member of the Brothers Instruction Lane. No, but like I said, it was more booking because if you see him on, because he did his thing on TNA Wrestling though, he did his thing.
He debuted Matt Morgan, who stood at 7 feet tall. Morgan was inserted into a storyline with Brock Lesnar for the annual Survivor Series event, but this did little to get him over with the audience. Despite the impressive look, he lacked confidence, and this was detrimental to his early pro wrestling success. Vince quickly realized that Morgan wasn't cut out for the main roster, so another run in the developmental territory OVW would follow before Morgan would eventually reappear on the main roster in 2005. Morgan had failed to develop any of his skills during his time in developmental, and it didn't come as a surprise that Morgan was released from WWE. In a move that received initial criticism, TNA would then sign Morgan, and to his credit, he managed to work on his craft, and by the time 2011 rolled around, he was one of the top babyfaces in the entire company. Number 4, Mason Ryan. The WWE's grand idea for Mason Ryan was to pair him with CM Punk on the main roster. Due to Punk's popularity and promo skills, they hoped that this would make fans actually care about Ryan, but sadly it didn't. Ryan looked like a clone of Batista, and some fans theorized that WWE were just trying to replicate the Batista character, and all signs pointed towards that.
Yeah, that's the other thing with sometimes with big guys too. Sometimes they're end up being, like almost a clone to another big guy previous to them that's like, but not as great as that as well too though. I think that's also why Tess had a good career though, but at time he was still kind of compared to Kevin Nash in a way. So yeah.
That being the case. But the primary issue was Ryan's in-ring work, as he often looked lost in the ring, and even though he was working with main eventers, they struggled to make the matches remotely entertaining. Eventually, WWE decided to send Ryan back to developmental, and whilst this run saw some improvement, just wasn't enough. WWE cut ties with the Welsh-born star in 2014, and even though his run didn't live up to expectations, he was said to be popular backstage and seemed like a good human being. Number 3, Luther Reigns.
This was just random. I mean, I get it. They needed a buyer for Kurt Angle, but yeah, it's like I said, just a big guy, nothing more.
Luther Reigns debuted during the Ruthless Aggression era, and he was mostly known for his work alongside the legendary Kurt Angle. Reigns was one of the dullest wrestlers on the roster at the time,
Yeah, he
and all
was.
WWE could tell the audience about this individual was that he was large and muscly.
Exactly,
WWE tried to
pretty
make him
much.
wrestle names such as Eddie Guerrero and John Cena, and these were a total snooze
Yup.
fest, as Reigns was unbelievably generic and lifeless as an in-ring performer. There was significant discourse on message boards at the time focused on WWE not understanding their audience. They were
Exactly.
debuting names such as Reigns and Heidenreich, knowing full well that they weren't ready to have great matches, yet they just hoped that their physical presence would be
Exactly,
enough. It was
pretty
incredibly
much.
frustrating as a viewer of the Ruthless Aggression product. Number 2, Mabel. Mabel Wade
Whew. I hate to say this, but yeah, facts, facts, facts. I hate to say, I got love for R.P. Nelson Frazier, but facts, y'all. Yeah, they tried to put him in the big time. It did not work at all, and he almost got his ass fired if it wasn't for Kevin Owens. Oh man, he might say on there, but you know, I'll tell you the story about that. When I read about, it, I did I posted like a little biography because I was in the group. Nah, I used to do like unsung with him, and I read about that. Yeah. And then I watched some of the old. I was watching it around the time, and one time when the network came back, I rewatched. When the network came on, I rewatched the time when I was watching it and everything. Looking back, yeah, I get they had Goldman with his promos and all that, but in ring he was sloppy. He was dangerously sloppy at that. Like if you think of like how do you say about Nia Jax, which who got better, he was worse. I'm gonna say that day he was worse.
in at almost 500 pounds, and Vince McMahon saw dollar signs when it came to the former Men on the Mission
All I
member.
say,
McMahon
thought they go show the video. I thought they gonna show the video part when somebody threw a drink at him when he was getting his inauguration. Yeah, well, yeah.
His bold idea was to save the 95 product by making Mabel the top heel in the entire
Yeah,
company.
it
Whilst
didn't
Mabel
work
was
at
in a
all.
total disaster in the ring, he wasn't at the level of other main eventers such as
He
Diesel,
wasn't.
Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, and Bret Hart. Mabel would even be booked to win the 95 King of the Ring, and this win would followed up with Mabel's biggest match of his entire career. He would take on Diesel at the SummerSlam pay-per-view, and this match just so happened to be for the WWE title. The match
Yeah.
was horrendous, and it exposed everything
Yeah.
wrong about the 95 product. Mabel even hurt Diesel in the match, and this
Yup.
almost led to McMahon firing him with immediate effect. The SummerSlam match would mark the end of Mabel's
Yup.
push in WWE, and
Oh.
whilst he was given mini pushes over the years with various different characters, he would never even sniff the main event scene ever.
Yup, exactly. I mean, we came back as Viscera. He did a little better, only because he wasn't the big main event scene or anything. He just either a tag team or just a big guy, part of like a mid card, low card thing. But yeah, that put him in the main event scene was a bad move. It was a bad move, and like I said, around the time the new generation era was already going through some bad things and anything. The only thing was great was the click. We must have click pretty much and Bret Hart and a good amount of others. But at the time, it wasn't the good move to put him in the top card around a time where WWE was already WF at the time was already struggling though. So yeah, that was not a good move for him as well too. Reason why he almost got fired. He didn't. Only thing he got exactly fired. He almost got fired. Like Vince was going to fire, but Kevin Nash vouched for him though. That's the reason why he was off TV. They sent him to the USWA for a while before they brought him back in the Royal Rumble, and then Royal Rumble before he got picked up by the diminished doctor to become Viscera. But yeah, he did almost lose his job over that match. Literally, that's why. Like after a while, he just faded out the way he did. RP to the
Again.
guy though.
And number 1, Giant Gonzalez.
The worst. The worst. Right here. Yeah. They picked the worst. They picked the right one to be the worst. Yes.
Without a doubt, the most infamous name to ever work with The Undertaker was Giant Gonzalez. Despite having a ton of size, Gonzalez was one of the worst performers in pro
Yes.
wrestling history, and he's responsible
entire
for some of the most
worst.
hated matches of The Undertaker's career.
From the get up from the whole get up in the first place to his wrestling skill. This, what was they thinking? It's almost like
career. The matches between the two in 1993 were truly horrific, and WWE were hoping that Gonzalez's novelty look would make fans care and invest in him as a performer. Speaking to Sam Roberts, The Undertaker spoke honestly about Gonzalez in the ring. "That whole thing took years off my career. I would be in much better shape now if I could have skipped that one program. As physically demanding as it was twice as much the mental strain because you have Brett, Yokozuna going out and having these great matches. Obviously, you want to be mentioned in the same breath as those guys, and it was just not possible." Vince McMahon often liked to treat The Undertaker as a test subject for these types of wrestlers.
Now, I thought Nels was gonna. I thought Nels did go get some. Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew Nels had a little feud with Horseman. I was trying to remember he went against yup,
And
another
this was
one.
largely unfair. The Undertaker needed compelling wrestlers to work with
Exactly.
who could actually wrestle. The fact that Taker wasn't even booked to defeat this man clean at
Yeah.
WrestleMania is shocking, and it just goes to show how invested WWE and McMahon were in one of the most disastrous characters to ever step foot in a WWE ring.
Stop. He used to be a wrestling like E before. CW, what's his name? Hold on. I know one of y'all going to comment and say yes, that's him. Referee. Ain't that the one that was end up being yeah, what's his fucking name? Yeah, Bill Fonzo. Yep, is that him? Yep, that is him. Wow. Yeah, I'm about to say yes, Bill Fonzo. Wow, I didn't know he roughed in WF back then. Nice.
But there you have it, folks. 10
Yeah.
of Vince McMahon's big
Yeah, pretty much. Yup. Right there. 9 times out of 10. Working with enough big guys is not going to work. And then another time, the reason why these big guys don't work because all they are is just big, nothing more. And yeah, and I can see why Undertaker said that because, for a while, Undertaker was a phenomenal to look at. At one point, before he took him to like the Attitude Era to find his footing. Because he was popular, scary, big, scary, all that as well too. That's probably why he did better well as a babyface than a heel. Because heel, he was scary, but at the same time, like the way he was putting them against other folks, it was like it didn't. It worked at first because they didn't put him with all big guys, and when he kept putting with other big guys, it would start to fizzle out a little bit. That's why he had. That's why he had an injury, he had a hiatus, and came back, which was cool. And then he had his big break, but his big break didn't come to the Attitude Era when he had a little speech. He had to show that he's more than just a big guy who can wrestle any big guy. So that's why it took. You may not realize it. It took a while for Undertaker to find his spot, though. That's why it was like a big thing when they had that on what was it, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, when they had talk about him and Sting. They had good following in the beginning, but it took them a while to get become who they are until later on with Sting with the Crow Sting and Undertaker with the slightly pre Ministry of Darkness Undertaker as well too. But yeah, this right is literally just being approved that realized they were planning about the chemistry. The two big guys not gonna work out as well too. And no matter how good it looks on car, it's not gonna work out. And 9 times 10, a big guy is just big, nothing more, no skills or nothing. Other than that, if you like my reaction to this, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's your boy T signing off. One love.